Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda and I'm super excited about this video because I'm gonna be talking about one of my most anticipated films from last year, and that is a live-action adaptation of the anime Kaguya-sama Love is War. This stars Hashimoto Kanna and Hirano Sho, and just saying that, I mean, that seals it as to what drew me in this movie in the first place. Before I start talking about this, obviously there are gonna be spoilers, but I'll try as much as possible to keep it in a minimum, at least from what's in the original source material or something like that. I would probably reference the anime a little bit, so if you haven't seen it or if you're sensitive to spoilers, then please click off. But if you're ready to hear what I have to say about this film, then please keep on watching. Now, these two actors I absolutely adore, but again, I think I've said this in my We Love video, even if I love Hirano Sho, I would still sort of like give a sort of like partial review on his movies. That one I absolutely didn't like. You can check out my review on that. But for this one, there are a lot of like highs and also some lows that I would want to talk about. And I don't know, just the thought of it still excites me because of how much I really wanted to see this film, because I wanted to see their chemistry and their dynamic on screen. And yeah, when I first saw the trailer of this one, it really piqued my interest because I felt like the plot was really interesting. You know, this is about, like, it's not something new, especially in the shoujo genre where there are two characters who like each other but just wouldn't say it out loud. But what made this really funny to me is because they're both the president and vice president of the student council, and at the same time, because of the things that they have to work through together, they tend to overthink things because they view love as a war, and so they're trying to force the other person to confess first. Now, all of the schemes that they went through, I found really funny, at least when I got to see the anime already. But I'm the type of person who really sort of like tries to separate the like one medium to another. So I'm not really the type who would nitpick every single thing that didn't appear in the live action film, mainly because I do understand its limitations as compared to the anime. That said, there are still expectations, I would guess, that would come with watching one source material and how it translates to another. And that's how I'm sort of like going to analyze my experience of watching this film. Before that, I want to just focus more on the technicalities or how this fared in Japanese cinema. According to my research, it shares the same director with Nisekoi. Now that one definitely also got the anime treatment, where it's basically like they really went on with trying to mimic the at least the aesthetics of the anime, and apparently that one flopped despite the fact that it also stars one of Johnny's idols, Nakajima Kento, which is surprisingly is with Hirano Sho for Miman Keisetsu. But I guess that one flopped around 500 million yen only in the blockbusters, whereas for this one it hit the 2 billion mark in its sixth week, I guess. So I guess this one fared a lot better than that one, even if they did have the same dynamics in terms of really trying to make that anime come to life. Even the aesthetics of this one, I do feel like the visuals of both Sho and Kana, Shirogane Miyuki and Shinomiya Kaguya respectively also helped, especially with Kana looking like she's really Shinomiya Kaguya from the anime. But apart from that, it was really, again, like my issue sometimes with anime term live actions is that sometimes they can either look really pale in comparison to the anime version, because obviously the anime has its own like visual appeal to it, or if they try too much to make it very similar to the anime, it would look very tacky. um my prime example would be Hyoka, where the anime really has this sort of like vividness to it, and the aesthetics of that plays a role into the narrative of the story. But the live action film, despite the fact that it captured the deep meaning or like the actual message of the anime, it still didn't deliver on how you view it, in terms of how it's meant to be viewed as illustrated by the anime. If you haven't seen it, I wouldn't spoil why, but it's actually one of my favorite animes in terms of like the concept and the messaging. I like the movie as well, but obviously again in terms of aesthetics, like it just didn't really push it. They made it more slice of lifey in a way, too realistic, that it lost one of the major aspects of the anime. Contrasting this with Nisekoi, which I've also seen, that this one, like that one, even in terms of the acting, was so anime-ish. I personally liked it because I found it funny. I've been watching J-dramas for a really long time, even way before the plots were actually really ridiculous and the acting is really over the top and everything. So I think that's why I was able to appreciate it, but I guess it wouldn't be the cup of tea of a lot of audiences as well. Now I think for Kaguya-sama Love is War, they found a nice balance to this one because it did play off the advantages of the anime. Like in terms of aesthetics, I really love the cinematography of this one. I'm a nutter for cinematic visuals, and this one really delivered on a lot. Like I have a lot of frames that I admired how it was just like the composition of it. I absolutely love it. I'm being a geek here, but I think they really did justice on the anime aspect of it because of the color grading, because of the framing, because of just the feel and vibe of the entire film. In terms of the narrative, obviously it would feel very chopped if you've seen the anime, because they just took a lot of like the main themes or some of the interesting storylines or the recurring storylines of the anime, and they inserted it there to I don't know, as Easter eggs and obviously as a reference to the source material. But again, like if you're very nitpicky, then you would say that it just it's too quick. It's not giving me enough. But to me as a viewer, I felt like it was really like it did its best at sort of like delivering us that anime experience and then also transforming into its own kind of work. I was kind of surprised though that one of the biggest arcs in the anime was the summer festival or the Natsumatsuri. That one displayed friendship and love and just going beyond the war that the two main characters have and just exploring more for the character of Kaguya-sama. And I think here we reach that peak moment and we're not even halfway through the film. I like that scene because obviously like the casting for this, some characters would pale as to how they are in the anime. And obviously we want to just focus on our two characters here. I'm not saying that the side characters that they got were bad. Actually, I really like the supporting characters for this one, especially for Fujiwara, because even if her character is the most anime-ish out of them all, she's just so adorable that I can't just hate her. Um, and I don't know, like the supporting characters really did okay for me in this one. I felt like okay, they're not getting the screen time that they have similar to the anime, but it still worked because if they try to insert them too much, then it would feel like their own stories would just fall off the rails as well. So I like the balance of that in this film. In terms of the two main leads, yeah, I was just pretty surprised that the peak storyline for the anime was already reaching its fruition in the middle of the film. So it was both a pro and a con, mainly because I felt like in the anime that really delivered sort of like development for not just the two main characters but for everyone in the narrative, like in the friendship circle that they have. But that also excited me because I felt like it the live action movie wanted to give me something more beyond what the anime just brought in. And so I was anticipating what was going to happen in the third act of the film. Now, this is where the sort of like con comes in, because obviously they're straying off the source material. They made it seem like because of being overworked. Obviously, there's this idea that it's all a misunderstanding given that it's a comedy, that Shinomiya was getting overworked. So they try to battle each other, like Miyuki and Kaguya try to battle each other out for the presidency of the student council. They have this like election campaigning thing, all that jizz. And then eventually goes down to the like your appeal to the student body. And I think there are some parts of the third act that really felt like, where else is this going? It did have its own highlights. I found myself cringe laughing at some of the parts of the film, especially when it was about to reach its conclusion. Um, we got a confession that was made me cringe laughing so hard. My stomach was really hurting. We sort of like had reached a confession between the two main characters, which turns into another 180 at the last minute. And that I think was brilliant in a way to salvage the the sour parts of the third act. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting to me. I know that for Johnny's idols, they do have this sort of like thing where they couldn't have on-screen kissing scenes until a certain point in time in their career. And for Hirano Sho, this happened many, many times with his other like shoujo projects. Hana no Chihare didn't get a kissing scene on that one. For Honey, no kissing scene on that one. Just obviously like a camera trick kissing scene, if you get what I mean. And then for We Love, as much as I hate that movie, we didn't get that a kissing scene on that one either. So for Kaguya-sama, I felt like it was such a like nice choice that his first on-screen kiss was with Hashimoto Kanna. I was pretty psyched about this one. Like I was really sort of like screeching about this. I was raving about this. It didn't turn into this very cheesy like thing all of a sudden. It went full circle. It clicked back at the beginning of the film, which is them treating love as a war. And so it gives a nod to like the anime having a season 2 that was just announced recently. It tells us that this still isn't over and there's still a lot more to tell, but obviously it's a film. So it's definitely leaving its doors open for the original source material. And I really like that because it's sort of like it concluded itself in a way, but also sort of like still lets the imagination of the viewer run wild. Now, I know that this movie got a lot of mixed reviews because of how it went, especially again with my same concern with the third act. I think a lot of people were anticipating that the Natsumatsuri scene was going to be the what they call this, like the climax of the film. However, it wasn't. It was a bit lukewarm, I guess, in a way as well, because that was one of my favorite arcs in the anime, but I think it was executed pretty fairly in the movie. Especially again, as I've said, this movie is very rich in visual in cinematic visuals, in terms of aesthetics, in terms of cinematography, right? Like it really went there, and I think it delivered in some way. But I guess I understand why it would feel very lukewarm, especially for people who absolutely loved the anime and loved that scene, because that scene and that arc really, and that episode, I guess, really played a really nice, heartwarming touch to this entire film. Now, with that said, I think in terms of the casting, Kanna and Sho for this one is absolutely brilliant in a way, because they're both actors that can play off that really nice, serious character, but then flip it in a switch and it becomes comedic and not in a tacky way. And like I think that was what made this film work, is because them as the leads, even if it's anime-ish, like it didn't, like their acting didn't seem tacky. It still felt very natural to them, mainly because I think we're kind of used to seeing them in characters like this, but then at the same time it's also very fresh, very nice. And yeah, I think they are, I think, is this a perfect movie? Not really, as with most live action adaptations, but it is it entertaining? Yes, I would say that you would find yourself laughing in most of the parts of the film. You would find yourself flustered. You would find yourself, I don't know, like your heart would flutter in some of the moments of this. Definitely a notch, it definitely is an entertaining watch, and I'm not saying that it's a perfect, like, super must watch films. You would add this to your movie bucket list and everything. It's definitely not that type of movie, but it is entertaining if you want something to just laugh out loud to. I would give this, I don't know, like 7 out of 10, I guess. Have you seen this movie? Have you seen the anime for it? What do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever, tell me down in the comments below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and if you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this one, and I hope to see you again soon in a new video.